Hi again, everybody. It is Victor King from King Creole Sports, and I'm the totals guy at PlaybookSports.com. I've been with Playbook since the summer of 1999, and I'm also the author of the Playbook weekly newsletter known as the Totals Tip Sheet Newsletter. If you like betting NFL over under selections, our 6 page Totals Tip Sheet newsletter is for you. It's available for $11 every Tuesday evening at playbooksports.com. We're going to do a really quick 3 to 4 minute over under review from what happened in NFL Week 1. And then at the back end of our segment here, we'll throw in what we think is a very, very good over under selection for this particular week from a value standpoint. But again, week 1 of the NFL season, it's in the books. If you are a over only bettor, you probably took a bath. If you like playing the primetime games over the total, you probably took another bath. That's because the overall result last week in NFL Week 1 was just 5 overs and 11 games went under the total. It was the lowest scoring Week 1 since the 2017 season, which also went 5 and 11 over under with an average of only 40.4 points per game. So last week, the average NFL line was 46.1. The average combined points was only 42.1. That means the average game went under by a margin of minus 4 points per game. There was only 3 games out of 16 that had more than 50 points last week. Meanwhile, there were 9 games that had 41 or less total points scored. Some of the under highlights, I mentioned the primetime games, the night games. They went a perfect 0-3 over under last week. That was the Rams Bills game on Thursday night that went under. The Dallas Tampa Bay game on Sunday night that went under. And then finally the Monday night game that, despite a high scoring first half, still went under the total, with Seattle beating Denver 17-16. All 3 of the primetime games ended up going under the total, an average of only 32.0 points per game. Not only that, but there were 6 division games played last week. 5 out of those 6 games went, that's right, under the total. Average in those division games only 39.3. So what are some of the reasons for that low scoring first week in the NFL? Well, this low scoring start, emphasized by very, very good defense, it appears to be the byproduct of a new preseason philosophy, one that I don't agree with. A mindset in which impactful offensive players either sit out the entire preseason, or at the very least, they only play 1 or 2 actual series in a given exhibition game. And man, oh man, it's very hard to develop any sort of offensive flow or tempo when your quarterbacks, your running backs, your wide receivers, your tight ends can't get on the same page until it's week 1 of the NFL regular season. The 11 quarterbacks who played in week 1 who did not even take 1 snap in the preseason ended up going 3-8 ATS against the spread last week as well. So again, that's the main reason that this week was so low scoring in the NFL. The fact that so many starting quarterbacks didn't even play 1 particular down in the preseason. So that's your week 1 over under review. Week 2 has been a very volatile week in terms of totals in the NFL. So you're going to want to exercise some caution with this week's over under selections. As an example, last year in week 2, there were 8 overs, 8 unders. 2 years ago, 11 overs, 5 unders. 3 years ago, only 3 games went over, 13 games went under. So when I mentioned week 2 has historically been a very volatile week in terms of totals, you definitely want to take a look at that. And in regards to this weekend's games, we are looking for value. So we'll close our little review here with a free play in the NFL. And we're going to go down to the Lone Star State with the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. And we're going over the total in that particular game. Now, you think I'm crazy. Dak Prescott's not even playing in the game. It's going to be Cooper Rush going for the Dallas Cowboys. Well, with that said, again, when it comes to over-unders, we're all about value. And that's what we're getting in this particular game. Prior to last Sunday night's game being played in the Dallas-Tampa Bay game, the anticipated line for Cowboys-Bengals Week 2 would have been in the range of 51 to 52 points. That would have been the over-under line if both teams were healthy in terms of impactful offensive players. Guess what? This game opened at 50 points. It has fallen all the way to the range of 41.5 points as we speak. The line has come down almost 10 full points compared to a Dallas team if Dak Prescott were the starting quarterback. And while I think that Dak is worth about 6 or 7 points to the over-under line, I don't think he's worth 10 or 11 points. So yeah, all of a sudden, there's value on this particular game over the total. Let's not forget, in the game that Cooper Rush started last year, he only had one start for the Cowboys, but he went 30 for 47 for over 400 yards and 3 touchdown passes in his only start last season. So all of a sudden now, we are getting some value, and we are going to pull the trigger on this particular game. I'm also going to take a look in the next few days, and we may even make this a best bet. But for now, we'll settle on it as a free play. That's Cincinnati and Dallas over the total. What clinches it for me is I was playing around in the Playbook database, and there's a great game-specific pattern that says this game finishes somewhere in the 44 to 48 point range, giving us some nice value. Game 2 in the NFL, when a home non-division team is an underdog, like the Dallas Cowboys are, of more than a field goal, these games have gone 19-3 over-under since the 2007 season. If these teams are NFC teams that are catching the points at home like the Dallas Cowboys, they've gone a perfect 7-0 to the over. Average points in these games, 57.1. All of a sudden, there is now value on the Bengals-Cowboys game over the total. So get your action in at the current line of 41.5 points. We're playing the Bengals-Cowboys over the total for your week 2 free play in the NFL. And don't forget this week's Totals Tip Sheet newsletter, also available at the PlaybookSports.com website. That's it for this week. Keep fighting the good fight, and we'll talk to you next week.